another advocate for mental health. He and I recently met at a networking event, Connect Ottawa, I believe it was called. Is that correct, Tim? Can you
Yeah,
hear me again? Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay,
Yep.
awesome. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, I was at Connect Ottawa.
okay, super. So Tim and I, he was talking about his nonprofit Serendipity, which I'll let him get into. But right away, I honed in on him and insisted that we meet because, well, virtually meet, obviously, in what the condition that we're in right now, because of his advocacy for mental health and what he's, what he's going for and his passion, and I love it. So, Tim, did you want to say hi to everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone. Glad to be on. I really appreciate the invite, Laurie, and I'm excited to share the news about the serendipity and what we're trying to do. So, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do then, usually what the format is that, I go through your bio, then I ask about the challenges you want to discuss as well as how you overcame. Um, in your case, because of serendipity, because it's so close to my heart, do you mind discussing serendipity a little bit after the bio and just what it's all about and what you're doing with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So Tim Timothy Laflamme is a married with two beautiful children and two golden doodles. That's a busy house. He enjoys playing with his children, playing video games, watching videos, and playing sports. Timothy is very passionate about helping individuals, families, and businesses reach their vision and goals. He is passionate about education, leading by example, but most importantly, ensuring people can achieve success in whatever they are trying to do. He has over 15 years of corporate financing and banking experience in both Canada and the United States. His expertise includes several areas across from AML, banking, financial planning, risk assessment, and he also has a vast amount of experience working with small and to medium-sized businesses, helping them to identify their vision, mission, and goals to be successful. I think that's what I have right here. So, Tim,
Yeah.
do you want to dive into serendipity and tone and everything that you're doing right now because of all the awesomeness that you are creating? And that'll
Well,
be out.
I'm trying to create. Yeah, absolutely. So, um, I'll give you a little bit of history of kind of how we got where we are now today. So back in 2015, 2016, um, I was in the height of my career, having fun, working hard, doing everything I was passionate about. Working long days, however, and it came to a point where I would come home more often than not, grumpy, not really receptive to feedback, uh, angry all the time, upset. And my wife noticed that there was something going on, because it wasn't like me to come home upset, angry, or react with a short fuse. At which point it prompted my wife to do a little bit of research and kind of ask some questions about what might be going on. And my simple response to her was, it's just life. I work 12, 15 hours a day. I'm tired. What do you expect? And that wasn't the answer that the answer wasn't very helpful, perfectly. My wife quickly realized I was probably going through a depressive episode, and she decided to begin asking questions to professionals on how she may get me to realize that I was going through this challenge. After 6 months of working intensely with me, asking questions, making me challenge myself, challenge my thinking, challenge my approach, I began to realize maybe, just maybe, she might be onto something. The next step was probably the most difficult step in my life. It resulted in me having to take 6 months off of short-term leave from work in order to, meet with a psychologist, talk with the psychologist, figure out if there's a medical plan that needs to be put in place. All these things. It really stirred up my world. Quite frankly, it turned it upside down. It meant to me at that point was I felt like I was just quitting because I had never taken time off work, except for, when we're usually sick with a cough or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
However, taking 6 months off, I've never ever considered that, and never had done it up until that point. So I felt like a quitter. I felt like I was letting my team down. I felt like my team around me, when I go back to work, thought I was just, taking advantage of the system because it's available to us. And I just extended my vacation and time off. So I was really afraid of what others would think of me. And most importantly, I thought it would do tremendous amount of damage to my career. I had worked so hard to get where I was. I was projected to move into another high senior position, and I knew taking that time off, I wouldn't get the promotion. However, thankfully, now looking back, my wife did make me take that time off. We were expecting our first son. His name is Edward. And my wife basically said, "Look, I want Edward to have a father when he grows up, and you need to do something about it now."
Wow.
At that point, it was really easy for me to, well, I shouldn't say easy. Truthfully, it was really hard for me to make the decision to take the time off.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and I spent 6 long months speaking with a psychiatrist, psychologist, taking a variety of medicines to figure out what would work, what didn't work. Found out a diet that seemed to improve my lifestyle, and began to exercise because the reality was I was sitting at a desk 12 hours a day, doing what I was supposed to be doing, and not really moving around.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, fast forward, 20, late 2016, I decided that I was going to become an entrepreneur, become self-employed. It was a big decision, but the part of the biggest reason I did that was because I felt that in the corporate world, in the corporate ladder, um, if you're there working hard, you're recognized. If you happen to have to miss some time, whether it's a valid reason or it's not a valid reason, it does affect your career. Many corporations say that that's not the case, but the reality is it does. Um, I'm not upset about any of my choices. I'm not upset at any of the corporations I worked for. They were all great organizations. They taught me a tremendous amount. They also educated me. So I'm grateful for those opportunities, but I realized quickly that I had to do things for myself. And so I spent a few years teaching financial literacy, and I still felt like I was missing something. And then in 2019, in November and December of last year, I went through another episode. I had just come off an 18-month project with some individuals, and that project didn't work out. It failed, um, and I failed, and it took a big toll on me. Even though at the beginning I felt that I was okay with the outcome, emotionally, physically, mentally, I wasn't, and it caught up with me in November and December. And during the Christmas time, when my wife would have 3 weeks off because she's a teacher, again, my wife being great, she sat down with me and said, "What's going on? Like you're doing so wonderful, and then all of a sudden, it seems like there's nothing that can make you happy." And I basically said, "Look, I poured my heart, my passion, and everything into the last project. It failed. I lost friends. Um, I hurt people. It's not who I am. I like to help. I like to, my whole purpose is to help make people successful. And to me, it's not about how much money I can make, it's how much money I can help them make. Because if they're successful, I'll be successful, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
immediate or after." And then I realized quickly that in order to go get the help that I needed again, it was going to cost probably about $10,000. And at that time, I was self employed for the last few years. That kind of money and that kind of benefits didn't exist like it did before.
Yeah.
And I realized really quickly that there weren't too many programs out there that helped cover people like you and myself who suffer from mental health, and I personally have major depression. And then I thought to myself, well, there's got to be a program. We've got OHIP. We could. My wife has decent benefits where she works. There's got to be additional compensation out there, and there wasn't. And I realized quickly that my wife and I were fortunate. We had a little bit of a nest egg,
Mm-hmm.
and we were able to use that to get me back on the right mindset and really focused. But then that's when the kind of the epiphany, the light bulb, if you will, went off and said, there, how many people are in our position who don't have savings, who live paycheck to paycheck or credit card to credit card? They need help too. Because I remember how anxious and stressed I was thinking that we'd have to use some of our hard-earned savings just for me to get better. It just didn't seem right. So I came up with a company called Serendipity Group. And Serendipity Group is all based around providing mental health services to individuals who are in need and, most importantly, cannot afford mental health services. So our clear focus and mandate is to provide mental health services for the individuals and support systems for their family members around them for free. I mean, obviously, it's free for the individuals, not for Serendipity Group, but that's okay with us. We'd rather the individual themselves and their family members have the tools that they need to get better instead of getting worse. Because as maybe you know, Laurie, when you start thinking about money and how it might impact your children, your family, your friends, yourself, well, you get even more down on yourself.
Oh,
You get
absolutely.
even you get more angry,
Mm-hmm.
um, you get more anxious, and you know, unfortunately, that does lead. And I don't love talking about it, but it leads to suicide
Yeah.
because we don't have enough programs out there to help the individuals. Unless you are the most severe case, there may be an opportunity for you to go to the Royal Ottawa or the Queensway. However, they only have so much room, and you have to be considered extremely critical for them to even consider you.
And
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I was going to butt in there too. And what you're like, there are opportunities out there to get help, but there's usually about a 2 to 5 year wait till you go on a waiting list, and then once you put on the waiting list, you have to wait again, and then after that, you admitted to group therapy or whatever certain therapy, and even then, it's a shot in the barrel, right? You don't know if that's going to be um, the right therapy you're going to need. Because I was lucky enough that I did have a suicide. I was lucky to have a suicide attempt, but it sounds funny now. I was lucky to have a suicide attempt that led to me getting the right therapy and the right diagnosis. But like you said, that's because I was critical and able to find the right doctors at the right time. So I agree with everything that you're saying about it, and it's incredible that you took something such a big life event and pivoted into help opportunity to others, and I love that. So please go on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, Laurie. Yeah, the, the thing I look at it is I want to do something that I feel that's rewarding personally. Um, we as human beings think of life, we measure our successes by how much we make, what we drive, what the house we own. And it's really unfortunate because the reality of it is it doesn't really matter what you live in, what you drive, or how much you make. If you're going to commit suicide or be in a severe state, these objects are worthless. So we need to be starting to think about our health, um, our physical and mental state before anything else. And so for me, that was my focus. To me, I don't need to make $1 million a year. I don't even need to make $100,000 a year. All I need to know is when I put my head down on my pillow that I've given everyone the best possible opportunities to be successful, and have the tools so that their family members can help recognize the signs and work with the individuals. As you may know, Laurie, there's been tens of millions of dollars every year donated to mental health, which is tremendous and great. However, a majority of those fundings go to two things. One, research and development, and second, to major hospital organizations like the Royal Ottawa, which again needs the money. But those are the two primary areas the money goes to. The third area, where we're talking about individuals like ourselves, unfortunately, there's nothing really given there, and we need to start paying attention and start addressing that. And so my mandate is not to help, most importantly, help the individuals, get them the coverage that they need. But the second thing is we're in the midst of building what I would say hopefully is a fantastic website, soon to be up on serendipitygroup.ca, where we've scoured the internet for all types of tools that can help identify signs. We'll be uploading videos, podcasts, maybe customized music playlists, and much, much more onto our website. And the hope is, if you are a family member, a friend, or the individual themselves seeking some type of help, our website can at least give that to you right now.
That's awesome, because there are a lot of different podcasts and like you said, playlists and videos and stuff, but and even blogs, but they're all scattered out in the midst of the internet world. And for you to bring it all in together for people to utilize as a service, I haven't heard of that at all. I've heard of people like ehealth.com or Connects Ontario, like we had discussed about different. That is Connects Ontario, which I'll dive into the comments after we have our chat. They are like people that you can call and text to get some information about different therapy resources. But again, those are at a cost. Even the sliding scale ones that, like, we know we have walk-in counseling in Ottawa, but they go through, I think it's can't remember the type of counseling that they do, but it's only a certain type of counseling, and it's walk-in, and then to get on their wait list, again, it's being on the wait list to be on the wait list. And if you don't get the right counselor, then you've waited about a year to not be able to connect with the person, and then you're waiting longer. So yeah, the services are really limited for sure. And then having somebody like yourself put forward such a great resource, not only for the person going through the things, and having opportunity for the people that are supporting them. Because my ex-husband, he is like my best friend, one of my best friends. Him and my best friend, my parents, are the ones that really, if I did not have them when I was sobering up, and if I didn't have them to go through the suicide attempts and getting healthier and practicing what I do, I don't think I would be here today. But they didn't have that same support system. They saw my mom saw a counselor for a little while because of going through and supporting me. But I mean, there was nothing else really that they could have to lean in on beyond my regular therapist, who is mainly for me and not for them. So it's really cool for you to give something out there for the people surrounding the person going through crisis or going through an episode, or have ongoing, like with my borderline personality. Sometimes there's a situation where my partner and I run into, and he has no idea what to do with it. So having that, like, okay, she's on a high, but I know she doesn't like to spend money. I know she's manic, but how do I help her? Like, just like your wife does, how do I help her be aware that, I'm fairly good for being aware, but there's times where I'm like flying off, like I'm on the rafters, and he's like, can you just come down? And it's I'm so high up that I don't recognize it. And having the opportunity to resource different tools that I haven't given them or somebody else hasn't would be great. So thank you for putting that out there for people. You have discussed a lot of your story about what the different challenges are you've gone through and things you learned, and how you really poured into benefiting others, which is remarkable because I'm sorry, we all screw up and we all go through episodes, but it's what you do with those fuck ups that make you the better person. And I mean, Lord knows that my ex husband has every right to never forgive me for the rest of his life, but he forgave me and I forgave myself and I screwed up that marriage quite well. So, but like I pivoted what I did, I made peace with it, and now I'm in a better, healthy relationship. So I think what you do in your past and what you make out of it is really the nature of a person, which I commend you for 100%. And what are some things that you did though for your own personal growth? I mean, besides this awesome new passion of yours to build the serendipity, what are some of the things that you practice to for overcome your depressive episodes?
Yeah, so one of them is definitely leveraging my wife. To be honest, I try to be as aware as I can, like yourself. But the reality of it is, as my wife says, she'll say, "I think it's time for you to go take a happy pill," so to speak. Um, and I laugh, but then it's kind of like that subtle trigger where it tells me, all right, maybe it's time for me to, step back for a second and perhaps go for a walk or a run. One thing I'm very fortunate for is I want to say 7 or 8 year old golden doodle, and he is amazing. Like people talk about dogs being therapeutic, it's true. I mean, the amount of times that I would have spent in my bed, sleeping or just lying there. Uh, Him being there cuddling me is amazing. The other thing too is the times where I'm getting really kind of flustered or stressed, up even to the excuse me, up into today's day. Um, if it's crazy, he'll recognize it and he'll come over to my desk and with his big nose start nosing me and have me pay attention to him. So I'm fortunate. I've got my dog, I've got my wife, and then when I do need to kind of um, settle down, if you will, or kind of get back to where I was, I usually try to go for a nice long walk. I listen to music. I find music that helps me a lot too. And the other thing, which can be very difficult for all of us, um, is try to find someone you can confide in. And the reality of it is, for me, I'll be honest, um, my wife knows everything. There's no secrets. But sometimes it's tough for me to talk to her about maybe what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's not because I don't trust her. I love her. But I have a friend that I can reach out to and call, and he'll listen to me talk for however long I talk, and I find that helpful. So my advice to people who are maybe suffering right now, know that there is somebody you can reach out to and just talk to, even during this crazy time called COVID. So um, yeah, and yeah, to circle back to one thing that you had said, Laurie, about the resources and everything, there are a tremendous amount of resources on a variety of websites and organizations. One of the challenges that we found while we were trying to find the resources is it's a needle in a haystack. Um, so our mission is to try to eliminate the haystack and just show the needle, if you will. And so my biggest takeaway out of this fantastic interview and my ask to you and to everybody who's listening is if there are programs, tools, websites, anything you use, read, listen to, let us know. Because the reality of it is maybe only 10 people know, and we'd like to share it to the masses.
Yeah, that's essential. I think that is like the more that I think that's something Emil had said. I keep coming back to this quote, but Emil said it best is that if we, not just look out for ourselves and we look out for the community, it's just not ourselves that are being watched over. It's not just us looking for out for ourselves. It's everybody. There's more than just one person, and that's comes into play here where you're saying like if others share the information where you're able to put it up on your website, then the opportunity is there for the next person and the person after that, and that's beautiful. So yeah, definitely. I mean, you're already going to be tagged in this, but please, anybody if you're having issues reaching out to Timothy, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to connect you with him. And I guess that leaves us off with the ending question. Tim, what is one thing that you do every single day that keeps you living a healthy lifestyle?
Walking, absolutely walking. Yeah, I'd love to say that I eat healthy, but the reality is I'm probably the worst. I eat a pizza almost every day. It's kind of my vice. It's my go-to. Um, but yeah, I like to go for walks. And now I will say in the winter that is extremely hard, especially those minus 40 days. Um, but even if you go around the block, um, it's worth it. So just try to get outside. Um, enjoy the weather, even if it's cold or it's severely hot. Just go outside, take in that fresh air, and realize that there's so much more to live for than just your house, your car, your family. The world needs you, and we need you. So let's be
Yeah.
together.
There's, I think Mike Wood had put it up. Yeah, it was Mike that he listed all the sites, all the phone numbers through from local to Canada. But just to reiterate what you said about, you're not alone. There's always somebody to talk to. There's the distress line. There's the crisis line, and locally there's the suicide line. There's like the there's the Ontario mental health line too. So I think what I'm going to do is go find that link as well. I've resourced it a couple of times. So that's one thing I love about the entrepreneur community. As much as I've been in other communities that are very inclusive and loving type thing, I find that ultimately the best community that I've found that I can't get away from when I try to go into like isolation, when I go into one of my lows, is there's always at least one person daily from the Entrepreneur Ottawa community reaching out saying, hey, how's it going, how's your day? And it's never failed where like I'm like, hey, I'm doing shitty today, and then it ends up on a video chat. And that's what I love about the whole idea of community, because it is important, and we aren't alone. And we've all been given gifts to put out into the world. So it is not only is the world waiting for us to all share it, but it's our responsibility, because if we don't share what we have, then that next person might feel alone, and that, like you said, might lead that other person down into a dark line where you don't want them to go. So thank you for being a shining light, and I love how much you are in the world, and I adore you. So again, people, if you have any things that you'd like to share with Timothy, please connect with him on Messenger, and if not, feel free to connect with me and I'll get you in touch with him.
That's
All
awesome.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, and everybody have a great day today. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.